Well, g'day, and welcome to Stu's Shed. This episode I've got a large piece of camphor laurel sitting here. This came from Lazy Larry up in Queensland, and what I want to do is give it a bit of a, well, I just want to give it a bit of a polish really. Maybe not even that, just give it a bit of a sand to see what it really looks like when I start getting down to a nice smooth finish. So yeah, it's about 500mm by 1050 in length, and in this case, despite it actually being mounted on the torque work centre here, and again, I'm just another name drop. I'm using the Wellco clamps there just to hold it in place, and it's fixed down quite nicely with that. I'm not actually going to use the torque, and despite what you were probably expecting, seeing it on the torque here and the router all ready to go, I'm going to use something else. And what I'm going to use, which probably would be no surprise to anyone who's been reading my site recently, but this is the first time it's actually been used, so I thought perfect opportunity, is this little puppy here. This being the Festool BS105E, the belt sander from, well, I won't say it's from hell, but it is from Germany. It's 7 odd kilograms in weight, has this massive sled that it sits in, variable speed, I can't remember the exact power of the motor, but it's obviously significant and sufficient for the task. It's probably around the 1400 watt mark, but don't quote me on that one. At the back here, I've got the variable speed, and I can go from about 200 meters a minute up to 380. Dust extraction at the side here, and in this case, as you probably can't see on the camera, but it's just running off to the CT36E, the new Festool dust extractor there. I've got that plugged straight into the dust extractor and into the auto start, so that will just kick off whenever I turn the sander on. Obviously very easy to disconnect the dust extraction. And this is one of those ones where I'm a bit surprised that they've actually gone with the more traditional cable on it. It doesn't have the plug it, which would be rather convenient, particularly while I'm talking about it, because I'd really like to be able to unplug it right now. Let's have a bit of a look at the sled itself, and I'll just flick it over. The sander doesn't just run full on weight onto the abrasive pad, unlike a traditional belt sander. This one actually sits, rests on these little fingers around the side here. They're actually little brushes if you look at it closely, and that actually holds the whole belt sander up off the work, and you gently, and can very gently, lower it onto the workpiece until you've got as much pressure as you want it to apply, and it will just sit there gliding on the surface, with all this area causing a reference. And so, like using a very large plane when you're doing hand planing to flatten a board initially, you'll want something that's quite long till it rides over the peaks and the troughs, just to skim off the whole surface till it's flat. This is giving us that same ability. It's also allowing the abrasive to come down and just cut, as opposed to sitting fully on the abrasive and pushing into it. And if you've used belt sanders for other projects, you quite often find, particularly when you're starting out, and I can certainly speak to this myself, that if you get it on the slight edge, or you don't hold it exactly even pressure, that you find yourself causing a lot more damage than what you even started with, because the sandpaper will dig and eat into the timber quite easily, quite quickly. I mean, this is obviously quite an abrasive surface. But in this case, we don't even hold this router. In this case, we don't even hold this belt sander down. It is plenty heavy enough to do the job itself, and you just let the weight of the belt sander do the job for you. You just have to hold on. The belt sander can be removed from the sled if there is a requirement for that. I'm not going to do it right now because I still haven't worked out the most neat way of having that. Well, I've got it off, but I don't know how to do that neatly for on camera, so I'm just not going to try. At the front here, this is where we've got the height adjustment knob, and I can just wind that up and down, and it just raises and lowers the whole belt sander in the cradle. And there's also a quick release here, and I can flick that back and that lifts the entire sander off the sanding surface, so it's now just sitting on the sled, and when I'm ready to go I can drop it onto the surface. Other than that, I'll talk about other things about it another time. There is a bit of a cradle that you can attach onto the top here, or stand. It allows you to put this on a bench upside down, and it'll just sit there and you can use it as a mini linisher, but I won't get into that today. That's about it, really. That's next thing to do basically is just to fire it up and see it in action. Now what I'm going to do is, when I pull the trigger, I'm just going to hold on to it and gently pull it back towards me, then advance it up the work and pull it and gently pull it back, just letting the weight of the belt sander do its thing. And the vac and dust extraction will all auto start as well. So, okay, I think we're pretty much ready to go. So. And that's all there is to it. I'll just keep on going for a while and see what we get out of this. And as I've mentioned before, unfortunately we don't have smell-o-vision yet. It's Web 5.0, but right now I've got the rich aroma of camphor laurel starting to waft through the shed. And yeah, it's got quite a high-pitched squeal to it, and if I was going to use it for an extended period of time, I'd certainly use some hearing protection with it. It's still quite noisy, but as far as use, I certainly don't really have to concentrate like you would with a normal belt sander. In fact, I wouldn't use a normal belt sander on this job. It would just wreck it. Whereas here I can just keep going gently back and forth with that until the job's done and actually end up with a really nice even surface. So that in a nutshell is the BS105E belt sander from Festool, in this case sourced from Ideal Tools over in Williamstown. And it certainly is a hell of a beast for a belt sander, and capable of doing a lot more than what I'd normally traditionally or more roles than I'd normally traditionally assign to a belt sander, and much of that can be attributed to the sled that's here. And just simply its weight, power, the dust extraction, it's all working together to make it a very fine tool.